Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. How is everyone doing today? I see a couple of people are popping in. Good morning. My name's Charlene Madrid. I am on the design team with Picket Fence Studios, and I go live here most Tuesdays at 12 o'clock Central, and I make a fun card or project using some of the products from the new release from Picket Fence Studios. So we are going to be making a fun shaker today. Good morning, Heather. And it is, it's pretty cute, and we're going to be doing some ink pouncing and fun stuff. So let me go ahead and switch you on over here to my desk. Good morning, Kathy. Yay, I see everybody's popping in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So this is the card we're going to be making today. Fun little shaker here with this sweet little seahorse and some really beautiful paper. I'm kind of in love with the paper. So we're gonna walk through a quick real quick what we're gonna be using, and then we'll get started. So we're gonna use the Seahorses of the Sea stamps and dies. So you've got these two different sizes of seahorses, some fun sentiments, and coordinating dies. And the dies for the sentiments are also included in that set. We're going to use the basic die cutting set 1. Now you can make a window with a ledge and different stuff with this. You've got the ability to make ovals with a stitch detail. But you have these 3 arches in here as well, which are really great for creating an arch frame or something to go around the window. Or you can do what I did here, which is we're going to make that our window into our shaker. So that'll be fun. Oh, thank you, Kathy. And then last but not least, I am in love with this paper. This is the fabulously glossy A2 card fronts in Beachcombing. So you have all of these beautiful, like, beachy colors that look like waves, but it's also like fabrics looking / ink or water looking. I have no idea how they created this beautiful paper, but I'm kind of in love with it. I think it is super, super pretty. This would look gorgeous with lots of different things. So we will grab one of these papers here. I think we'll use this one. I think that's the one I used. Yeah. All right. So let's put these away. And set this up here so we don't misplace it. And we're going to get into our fun seahorse element. Yeah, isn't that paper gorgeous, Arlette? Yep. Hi, Barbara. Yay. Okay, let's grab, I've got my paper here. So I've got a half sheet of an A2 sized card panel. That's what we're going to do our seahorse on. And then this will be for our arch. And then I have a piece here from, they're called shaker sheets that you can get at Picket Fence Studio. And they come in these big sheets. It's essentially cellophane, but it's really nice and not like nicked up or marred. And the pack lasts like forever. So this is good, I feel like, to have on hand for shakers. But you also could use like stamp packaging or a piece of acetate, whatever you'll have. Hi, Paya, all the way from Sweden. Oh, thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to start with that half sheet of A2 sized cardstock. I've got my adorable pint-sized Pouncers that you guys know I think are just the cutest thing ever. I love mini stuff. And I've got my inks here. We're going to be working with Kitsch, Flamingo, Saltwater, Taffy, and Scattered Straw. Now this is not normally a combo I would put together. I'd usually use something like Squeeze Lemonade, which is a really bright yellow, but this is a very soft yellow and it's gonna work really well with our background. Always don't pay attention to the names, guys. That's something that I run into where I'll be like, oh, you know, Saltwater Taffy isn't gonna work just because it has Taffy in the name. Like, don't let that enter your mind. So we'll open these up and get our little Pouncer friends ready here. And you could ink blend this as well with brushes or with whatever type of tool you have. But it works really well with the pint-sized Pouncers because they're small and you can get the colors exactly where you want them. But we're going to be doing heat embossing over the top of it, so it doesn't need to be perfectly blended in any way, shape, or form. In fact, we want it to kind of have those bright pops of color. So we'll start here with the Kitsch Flamingo. And I kind of have an idea of what I want to do. It's this seahorse we're going to stamp over the top. So I want like this to be pink and then kind of an orange, yellow, orange, pink. So I can always take my stamp and sort of hold it over to make sure I'm getting those colors in the areas that I want them. And that is also handy when you're ink blending. Just use your stamp and hold it over the top to make sure you're getting your colors where you want them to be. So I'll bring in the Saltwater Taffy here. And just tapping or pouncing into the ink, and then I like to kind of pounce off onto my glass mat just so I don't get harsh like circles at all. And then the scattered straw we'll bring here in the center, and I'm gonna do a couple layers of ink here. It's always better to start with less and add more because you have more control over what you're doing that way. And then we'll go back to the Saltwater Taffy, bring that here, and then we'll go back again to the Kitsch Flamingo. And then I'm just gonna check, make sure I've got every part covered that needs to be covered for the seahorse. Looks pretty good. I need to get a little bit more here and here, and we can do our second layer. So I'll come back in here with the pink at the top. I'll bring this down a little bit. And I decided to use distress inks because I wanted, even though this is going to be a very pastel, like dreamy looking seahorse when we're done, I still wanted it to be bright. I didn't want it to have that kind of creamy color that you get with the Distress Oxides, which is very pretty, but I thought that the seahorse needed to stand out a little bit more on the front of the card from this very like dreamy background. Yellow. I'm gonna bring this out a little bit more. And I don't tend to tap off as much once I've got that first layer of ink on there. And now we'll go back into our Saltwater Taffy. If I can remember what I'm doing. I have a plan, you guys, I promise. And then we'll go back to our Kitsch Flamingo here. I'm going to bring it down some. There we go. And if you're using a glass mat, you can also pick up those inks back off of there with your paper pouncers just by swiping. So you really save a lot of ink with these, I feel like. All right, that's good. I'm going to close these up. Put them back in my little tray here. You guys know I love organization. Close this up and set it aside. And then we will clean off our work surface. I've been using these, oh, somebody's here from Sweden, right? A Pie. I've been using these Swedish dishcloths lately to clean off my surface. And they work great. And then once it's kind of yucky, I just rinse it out. But they're very absorbent, so they're great for picking up stuff off of your work surface quickly. Okay, I've got my heat tool here, and you could use a heat. If you're not familiar with the Ranger Heat It tool, this has a larger opening, so it lets out more heat over a larger area, and it also doesn't get as hot as a traditional like embossing gun that you would use. So I like to use this for drying my card panels if I'm doing any kind of watercolor or ink sprays, anything like that. Or in this case, because I'm going to be heat embossing on here, I want to make sure this ink is really dry so that it doesn't pick up any of that embossing powder. Yeah, Pie, I know. Mine's dry, sad, and lonely. But yes, they are generally meant for kitchen use and stuff. But it seems to be working pretty good for cleaning off my surface. I did try to use it to clean one of my stamps the other day, and it didn't work terribly well, but that's probably because it was dry. And I had just spritzed the stamp, so I'm still experimenting with it. But once we get this nice and dry, we will do our heat embossing. And if you're not sure if your paper is dry, you will know. Oh, my voice went a little crazy there. There's a couple of ways to know. Once it's back to kind of room temperature, if you touch it to your skin and it feels cool at all, that means it's still wet. And then the other way is you can just pour some embossing powder over the top of it, and if any sticks to it, then you know you need to make sure it gets a little bit drier before you do anything. So let's grab our platform here, and we're going to stick this right down here in the middle, and our little seahorse. I think this would be cute for a Mother's Day or a Father's Day card too. You could use like the little seahorse and the bigger seahorse. We'll get this on here like so. Pick it up. And yeah, Pia says, am I saying your name right? I hope so, Pia. Better having a bit damp so it'll soften. I agree. I think I'm gonna rinse it. I'm gonna try anyway, because I'm not really near a sink anywhere upstairs. So I'm going to try and remember like, when I'm about to get started for the day on whatever I'm doing in here, going and just getting it wet. Okay, I put anti-static powder down. I've got my embossing powder, my embossing ink. So I'm going to get my stamp nice and covered. And you want to make sure whenever you're working with embossing ink that your ink pad is nice and saturated. So if you don't have a refill for your embossing ink, I absolutely recommend getting one, because you want, when you put that ink on your stamp, you want it to be there. And I am going to double stamp because I have the ability to. My favorite part of stamping platforms. And we'll stamp this guy back down again. All right, come here, lid. Oh, I thought I grabbed a Oh no, I have one in here. A piece of copy paper. What's everybody up to today? It's kind of rainy here. Is it rainy where you are, Kathy? It was clear this morning when I took my son to the bus stop, but then now it's like kind of rainy and gloomy. Got my embossing powder. I'm using, this is one of my favorite embossing powders. This is the Wow Opaque Bright White and Superfine. I find this does really well for lots of different applications. And it just tends to give me a really crisp result. So I'm just gonna make sure I hit everything really well. Tap off. Look at our sweet little seahorse. He, she, he's very cute. So I researched seahorses because that's what I do. I get distracted and then I do things like research seahorses because I wanted to know if they actually came in colors because I see, you know, I'll see like images of pink seahorses or purple seahorses, and I just wanted to know, not that you can absolutely use colors that are not in nature, right? But I also like to just kind of know if the color I'm using is in nature or not. So there are these little seahorses that are they're called pygmy seahorses. And they are kind of like a coral pink color. And they have little pink like nubs on them. They're super tiny. They're the size of a pencil eraser. They're kind of funny looking. I'm not gonna lie to you. They're not this traditional kind of looking seahorse. They're these little itty bitty seahorses. But I did find that you can find some seahorses that have color. Most of the time they are gonna be yellow, green, and brown, because what they do is they actually camouflage down in all of like the coral and seagrass, and they attach to it. So it's important that they are able to change to kind of more natural grassy colors and things like that. So you're probably not going to find a bright purple seahorse out in the wild if you're out searching for one in a coral reef, but you could still absolutely use them. So here we've got our cute seahorse. See how nice that embossing powder does? It just does a really good job. Oh, Paya says she's playing with the new neon lunar paste. That's cool. I love mixed media. You guys know I love pastes. So that sounds like a fun day to me. What am I doing? Oh, we're going to cut out our seahorse. I'm going to use the coordinating die here and grab my tape. I like to use highlighter tape. Kathy, it is raining. Yeah, I hope we do have better weather by the weekend. I'm kind of done ski with the rain. I need my sunshine to come back. Okay, I think that looks pretty. Oh, maybe, there we go. Pretty straight. So I'll tape that on there and run it through my die cutting machine here. Oh, actually, I don't have that plugged in right now. So I'll just run it through this one over here. And you could cut extras if you wanted to layer up. I'm not going to, because we're already going to have the dimension from the foam tape that we use around the edges to make it a shaker. So I'm just going to do the single die cut. And put my die back so it doesn't get lost in the abyss. Put this away. And there we have our sweet little seahorse. Isn't it cute? I think it's adorable. All right. Next, let's get out our arch here. And which one did I use? Ooh, I think I used this one because I wanted it to have some border, but not be super small. I wanted the, yeah, it's this one. Because when I'm looking at doing a die cut with a shaker, something I like to do is I like to make sure that it's going to fit inside my shaker window and have a little bit of space around it, but I don't want to do like a little baby seahorse with this window, right? It's not going to work well. If I was going to do the smaller seahorse from the set, I'd probably use this smaller arch because it's going to balance better with the size of the seahorse versus the arch. So hopefully that makes sense and is helpful. Let's go ahead and cut our arch out. Now the hardest part about this is making sure you get it centered. So just take your time. I like to kind of put my card panel on my glass mat and line it up so that way I can see where the center is, and it helps me a little bit in trying to center everything. I think that looks pretty good. And then I like to tape. When I tape on opposite corners because that's going to help keep your die from moving when it's going through your die cutting machine and getting pushed down and over by the plate in there. That's going to apply the pressure, or the roller, I should say. Okay, I'm going to cut this guy out. Okay, and I'm going to keep this because I'm going to use this to stamp our sentiment on. Let's see how we did. Oh yeah, that looks good. Yay. Put our die back here. And our paper over here so it doesn't get lost. Put this away so it doesn't get lost. Come on, go, 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 go. Let's move these out of the way. Okay, for our sentiment, I'm going to use this one here that says the sound of the sea helps tides rise. But there's love is here. You've always been my anchor in a sea of doubt. She who smells of the sea is always free. And you are the unique creature I have always sought. So you could also do, oh, I didn't even think about that. You could do like a love card, right? You could do a Valentine's Day card, anniversary card, something like that, with the seahorses. That would look cute. I'm just gonna grab my other platform here. So we're gonna stamp our sentiment here, and I'm going to use my black hybrid ink. Wipe off my stamp just so I can make sure it's ready to go. And make sure everything turns black. If everything's not black, like if all your letters aren't black when you are putting the ink on your stamp, you are not going to get a black stamped image. I know that sounds kind of self-explanatory, but if you're not applying enough pressure with the ink pad and moving it around as you're adding the ink, then you're not going to get ink all over. And that's especially true if you are working with a large background stamp. So just make sure when you're putting your ink onto your stamps that you're seeing black everywhere, if you're stamping in black in particular, or color. You know, make sure you see that color everywhere. And double stamp, right? If you've got the platform, why not? I feel like I almost always double stamp. It just can't hurt, might help. The only time I don't double stamp is if I don't have a sticky mat inside of my platform, like my Misty or something, and it's with embossing ink. For whatever reason, I know, like, it doesn't make any sense, but before I had the sticky mats inside of my stamp platforms, any time that I would stamp with embossing ink, if I tried to double stamp it, I could not get it to work. I don't know. It's just like one of those things that just could not get it to work. It was the most bizarre thing. Let's cut this out. And you guys know I normally do a couple extra, but again, I'm not going to do that because this is a shaker card and I don't want to add any more bulk to the card. There's our pretty sentiment. I'm done with that. Save that tape for later. So now I can put this away. I'm doing so good at keeping my desk kind of clean. Yay. Haven't lost anything yet, so that's good. We're going to bring in our shaker sheet, this piece of cellophane here, and we'll bring in some double-sided tape. And I have no idea what brand this is, honestly. I usually use score tape. You know, sometimes you get like free product when you place an order or something. That this, I believe, came as a free product, so I'm trying to use up what I have before I buy more. I'm sure I'm not the only one that has that problem, right? And I do have some, when I first started crafting, I saw several people tell me that I had to have the red line tape, red whatever it's called. It's got the, what is it called, you guys? It's this tape. It's like this. And I had several people tell me I had to use this for shakers. I've used it once and I saw, like, once or twice, I guess. But I saw absolutely no difference in how well it stayed together. So, I don't know. It's supposed to hold better. And I guess if you want your shaker to last a million years, then maybe that would be better. But I've never had anyone tell me my shakers are falling apart. So, I just use the regular old double-sided tape. Now, I have noticed that some double-sided tapes are less sticky than others. But all the ones that I tend to use regularly are pretty sticky. So we'll go all the way around our piece. You want to make sure that you do have the tape sitting right next to each other, butt up right next to each other, all the way along the card. And that's because you don't want to create inadvertently any little spots where your sequins or whatever you're working with can escape. Red line tape. Thank you, Nicole. I was like, red something. Red. I don't know. It's red. So now I'm going to use my bone folder here And I'm just gonna make sure that that is down really well, so that way when I try to peel off the release paper, it comes off super easy. What did Kathy say? I found out the hard way that spilling embossing powder on your sticky is not a good thing. Oh my gosh. Oh, Kathy, I'm so sorry. I'm sure that was a traumatic experience. Hopefully you took it and washed it off with some soap and water in the sink. But yeah, I imagine that made quite the mess. All right, I'm gonna take this off here now. And this is probably, I feel like, the trickiest part when you're using shaker sheets or cellophane, because you want to try and make sure that this gets laid nice and flat and doesn't have any wrinkles in it. So I always make sure the piece I cut is plenty big. I don't want it to be like super close to the edges and then having to make sure it gets on there just perfectly. I always make sure it's got a good little margin going around there. And then what I do is I take the side over here. I like to use the long side here when I'm working with arches. And then I just gently drop that on and let this kind of just lay flat down by itself. See, so I'm trying to mess with it as little as possible. Run my finger along the bottom there, run it up along the sides, and then over the top. And a little bit of a crease here and there is not going to be the end of the world, but you do want to try and make sure it doesn't have a bunch of wrinkles, because then it's, you know, it's not going to look as nice when you turn it in the light. And I'll run my bone folder over it again just to make sure it's got a really nice and secure bond on that double-sided tape. And then now we're gonna get our foam tape. So these are the foam rectangles. They come in a pack. I do have everything I'm using linked down in the description, so check that out. But you guys hear my dog? He's snoring. He's so funny. But these are great. It's Picket Fence has the big giant foam roll, which I use a lot, but I also like the option of just grabbing the rectangles, in particular if I want to cut strips, because what I can do is use my paper trimmer and I just bring it, so let me put it up so you can see it. So right now you can see it's at the, well, I don't know if you can see, but it's at the 3. So then I can just move it over by 1/4 of an inch, cut, and do that all the way down. And I'm going to cut 4 of these strips. And you do want to kind of like give your, you know, a good kind of press there with the paper trimmer handle. There we go. So now I have 4 nice little strips, and I can just put what's left of my sheet back in my little pouch. And there we go. See, isn't that nice? Now I'll add my strips here along the edges. I thought today I'd do a shaker because I haven't done a shaker in a while. And I saw several of the design team members made shakers this release. And I think it's just because there's so many pretty papers. So like if you like this Beachcombing paper, there are 4 or 5 other really pretty papers with this release. So I'm going to put this along here. There we go. And then again, when you put your next piece, you just want to make sure it is butted up against the last piece so that there's not any spots for it to escape. So yeah, several of the design team did shakers, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do a shaker. I know shakers, there seems to be like people who love them and then people who hate them. I don't know. What do you guys think? Anybody who dislikes shakers or absolutely loves them in the comments? I think they're awesome. I just don't, lately anyway, make very many of them. Non-stick scissors are essential though for when you are making shakers. We've got that strip. We'll come in with our next one and bring it all the way up. And the nice thing about having these pretty strips of the foam tape is I feel like from the side view of your card, it looks nice because it's nice and just looks a little cleaner, kind of a little more professional. I feel like having these nice clean strips along there. And because the Picket Fence Studios foam tape is a little bit thicker, it works really well for shakers. All right, and our last piece we will bring across the top, and I'm hoping that I cut it thin enough because there is a little bit of a thin spot, so we might have to do a little foam tape surgical work if it doesn't. Oh no, I think it'll be perfect. Yay. Oh good, that makes my little heart happy. Don't want to cut this too far because then it won't sit in there. Maybe a little bit more. There we go. Yay. So now we have our foam tape. Or let you don't have fun making shakers. Yeah. See, this is why I say they, like, some people love them and some people they're not their jam, but I feel like if you have the right tools to make a shaker, it can also make it a lot less frustrating, because I know people get frustrated with like the sequin, my sequins are getting stuck, or my foam tape isn't working right, or it's not thick enough, things like that. So having the right tools makes it so much easier and makes the end result really nice. One of the reasons I like to use the shaker sheets or cellophane like this is because it's less staticky, so you get less sequins sticking to it at all. And the other reason is that it doesn't have, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my embossing powder here and I'm just going to run it along the edges of this foam tape so that our sequins don't stick to the foam tape at all. And it's not, I don't notice a lot of sequins sticking with the Picket Fence foam tape, but just this little addition, makes it much more likely to be successful. And then the other thing that's always really important is make sure your foam tape is really pressed down well, because the other way that sequins tend to get stuck is because the foam tape is not adhered all the way down, and so you'll have like a little tiny gap that the edge of a sequin decides to just get underneath, and then it gets stuck there, and that's no good. We've got that ready to go, and now we can bring in our pretty sequins. This is, what is it called again? Footprints in the Sand. So it's like pink and coral and like a tan color and some iridescent sequins. Very pretty, very feminine looking, I feel like. And so we're gonna put, you could do it either way, but I'm gonna do it this way. I think it makes it a little bit easier to put it together. So I'm going to put down all the sequins that I want. You can see I've already used these sequins for other things. And then I will pick up the ones that have fallen on my desk. The other thing too is if you are struggling with sequins getting stuck on your fingers and that's like driving you bonkers, you also can put some of your embossing powder onto your fingers or baby powder or stuff like that, and then your sequins are not going to stick on your fingers. Okay, now what I'm going to do to make the lining up of my shaker, ooh, before I forget, I do want to just go ahead and glue a couple of these sequins. This is optional, but I want to glue a couple of them onto the paper so that way when the card is standing up, it is, you'll still see a couple of sequins. I'm probably going to do them like right around like that. Not very many, just a couple. And we'll do maybe a pink one here. Okay, and then let's maybe do an iridescent one up here. And oh, stuck to my finger. Get back there, you. Sometimes if the glue goes like through the little sequin opening, then it'll get on my finger and it won't want to stay put. I'll put a sand one there. And then I'll just keep a couple of little ones there. Okay. And now I'll throw my glue press. At least it wasn't the page with the sequins, huh? And okay, good way to do this is to get something that has a right corner, a 90-degree corner. And I use my score board for this often. And you'll put your piece right over here into the corner. And then you can take your release tape. Before I do that, you can see my shaker sheet has gone a little bit past the edge. So I'm going to go ahead and cut to make my life easier. I'm going to cut this now before I put the other piece on. There we go. You could cut it after, but it's just a little bit more of a pain. So now we'll take this off. And if you want to make sure that you could maybe add or remove more sequins, you could leave one of these pieces of release tape on and then kind of check out your sequin amount when you were done. And then once you liked it, you just bend a little bit and pull off the rest of the release tape by using some type of pokey tool. Hello, isn't it beautiful? Yes, this is the Beachcombing Glossy A2 card friends. So pretty. So now what you do, we've got it in the corner here. We're gonna bring our piece here in the corner and drop it down all along the edge. And so now, see how that lines up like perfectly? We don't have any showing around the edge. We don't have to worry about trimming anything off. And again, just like we did before, you want to make sure that foam tape is really adhered and pressed down so So that way it does, your sequins can't try and get down underneath it. And I got a little something or other that's kind of yucky right here. So I'm gonna just use my adhesive eraser. Don't know what that was, but there we go. And now we have our pretty shaker. See, and so those pieces that we glued, they'll kind of like catch other pieces. So that way there's always going to be some pretty sequins along the back paper. But do you see, I don't have any sequins stuck around on the edges. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. Just where I have stuff glued is where my sequins are stuck to. So taking those couple of extra steps will really help make sure that your shaker looks really nice when you're done. Now we can glue our seahorse. You could use double-sided tape if you want to, but I find that glue works just fine. I just like to put kind of an acrylic block for a second or a minute, you know, to help it have time to dry. I'm going to bring my glue all the way along the edges. And then we can put our little seahorse. I'm going to have him touching off the edge a little bit onto that arch, but then mostly on the arch. And I want him to be kind of centered in between the edges. You see that? So there's some space that's equal spacing on either side there. And then I'll bring in my sentiment. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to put it over here, and I want it to be, do you see this negative space right here? Imagine that this is kind of a square. I want this to be right in the center of that square. And then we'll just make sure it's straight. I think that looks pretty good. I'm looking at my, in case you guys are wondering why I'm looking up, I'm looking at the camera feed because I can't really see right over. So it's helpful to look at the camera feed for me to see if I actually have got something straight on there. But then I'm just going to set this large acrylic block there for a minute while that has a chance to adhere a little bit. And this, see, I wasn't kidding. This was a very easy card to make. We are ahead of schedule today. You guys know sometimes I go over. So I wanted to talk to you about, let me just clean this stuff up since we're waiting for that to dry. Oh, I wanted to show you also this month there is a sampler set. It's the Ocean Odyssey sampler set of paper glaze velvet. And these colors match fantastic with the paper. Like they go so well. So you could also use a stencil over the top of this paper and put like a fun like extra layer, like a dot pattern or stars or something, and really take it up a notch, but then still be able to see all of the beautiful color back behind there. And you could put, you know, your seahorse or there's a shell set that I used I think last week, and then the sea turtle set that I used the week before that. They would all look beautiful with this as well. Thank you, Kathy. Yeah, I'm a little crazy for this release. There's so many beautiful beach related items. So we've got this pretty little card. Oh, I love, love, love how those sequins that are pink and sand colored look. And then the iridescent just catches the light so pretty. I think that looks gorgeous with that background and with the seahorse. Yeah, Sherry, the paper is gorgeous. Okay, I forgot to mention earlier, for those of you that have been here before, you know that I will pick somebody from the comments to send this card to. I'll mail it to you. So happy mail, you know. So if you are interested in possibly getting the card, go ahead and leave a comment. I'll be picking from the comments here in just a minute. So go ahead and do that now. You can just tell me maybe your favorite part about the card, if you're not sure what to write, or you can tell me what the weather's like or where you're from. Whatever works for you. I wanted to talk real quick on this one that I made yesterday. You can see I brought the orange in a little bit more. I feel like I like that better. That's the other thing, when I get to make a card a second time, I can then like tweak things that I wanted to. And then I also, on this first card, I had thought that I wanted to darken the eye of the seahorse. And I decided that I like it better just white. I don't know. I think it looks good both ways, but I feel like I like the white better. So have that. And let me switch you. Oh, thank you. See, that's so nice of you. I'm glad it's helpful. Oh, thank you, Kathy. Yes, Kathy says to make sure and like the video. So yeah, thumbs up are always awesome. We appreciate that. Or heart if you're on, can't remember, thumbs up on Facebook, heart on YouTube. So let me switch you around here. That's me. If you, let's see, there's something else I wanted to tell you guys today. What was it? I can't remember now. Well, like is helpful. Subscribe. If you're on YouTube, definitely hit that subscribe button. And I go live most Tuesdays at 12 o'clock Central. There's also all kinds of other awesome tutorials here on the channel. We have Kelly Taylor making videos, Amy Risavi, Dawn from W+9. I think it's Woolslagel is how she pronounces her last name. I'm not positive, so don't quote me on that. All super talented. Ricky Bromero, lots of really talented people are contributing to the channel, so we get lots of awesome content to provide you guys with and give you tips and tricks and inspiration. And and the little bell, if you're on YouTube, I don't know, a lot of people don't know this, but if you click on the bell, you can personalize how you get notified about things. So if you want to get notified every time there's a video, you want to click that bell and have it change to all notifications. So make sure you do that as well if you are missing any notifications. Let me go ahead and pick a winner of the card. Okay, ready guys? I'm gonna close my eyes and then I'm just gonna kind of scroll here through the comments. No rhyme or reason. And where are we? Oh, Barbara Gershie, that is the winning comment. Yay! Let's give you some applause. Woo! Yay! Congratulations. Send me an email at my email, contact@dreamcraftcreate.com with your address, and I will get our sweet little shaker that we made today off in the mail to you, and you can get some happy mail. All right, guys, I'm not seeing any questions or anything today, so I hope that you all have a fantastic Tuesday, and I will see you again next week. Bye, guys.